All right, today is 7.6, simple interest. Simple interest is all about the fee you pay when you borrow money. So if you're taking out a loan, it costs money. It's not free. Your parents might loan you 20 bucks, but maybe they don't charge you interest, but banks will. Banks are looking to make a profit. So they're happy to lend you money. As long as you pay them for the money that you borrow. So what you pay them is called interest. So let me tell you about interest. Simple interest is the product, that means times, of the principal, that's P, the annual interest rate, that's R, and the amount of time that you borrow that money before you pay it back, expressed in years. So we have a nice little equation. It is I, interest, equals PRT. You just really multiply those all together. But let's talk about what each of those things are. So the principal is actually the amount of money that you're taking that loan out for. This could be $50, this could be $100, you could be buying a car, you might take out $1,500 or $30,000. Either way, there's an amount of money that you are borrowing from a loan company. That's going to be called your principal. That's the P in our equation, little p. Then there is something called the rate. We've talked a lot about rates, so you know that this is going to be an amount of money, like the fee per year that you're going to pay. It's a percentage of your principal. So we're going to say a percentage of the principal that decides your fee. This rate is paid per year. So every single year that you borrow this money, you're going to have a particular rate, and it's usually in a percentage. And rates for loans tend to change depending on how good of a person you are to borrow something. So if it's your first time getting a loan, your rate might be a little higher, as opposed to someone who's taken out loans and paid them back. They can trust them a little bit more. They give them a little bit of a lower rate. They know that they're going to be good for that loan. So these rates tend to be in a percentage. Maybe 3%, 5%. A really bad loan rate, like credit cards have really high rates. They tend to have something between 8 and 30% that you're paying on what you're borrowing, which is a tremendous amount of money over time. So that's the small r. The next one is the little t, that's time. And that's the amount of years, and that's important. We got to have that in units of years. The amount of years that you borrow this money before you pay it back. Every year they're going to charge you whatever the rate is, the percentage of money that they're charging you, that their fee for borrowing it for that time, for that amount of years. And sometimes we talk about the time, they give us months, and that's just fine because we change that into years by making it a fraction out of 12. And we call this all together, it is called the interest. The interest is the actual cost or the fee to borrow money. It is calculated based on the annual rate the amount borrowed, the principal, and how long you borrowed it. The time. And that's how we get this I equals PRT. Interest, capital I, equals principal times rate times time. So let's try a couple of these. We're going to find the amount of interest in these problems. Now they give us some information. And we're going to start with our equation. Interest equals principal times rate times time, PRT. So interest equals, well, let's take a look. We have $640, that's going to be the principal. We have a rate of 3%, that's going to be the R. And we also have a time of 2 years, and that's awesome because we actually want it in years. So when we rewrite P, we're going to write 640. And we're just going to go ahead and put it in parentheses because we're going to multiply it by each item. Now 3%, we're going to have to write it as a decimal so that we can make this calculation. So you can do a couple things. You can move the decimal over twice to make it a decimal, 0.03, or you can go ahead and put 3 over 100. They will give you the same amount when you put it into your calculator. And then we're going to multiply that by our last thing, our T, that's 2 years. So the time goes here. The rate goes here, and the principal goes right here. And when we take those numbers and we just multiply them out, we put them in our calculator, that's going to give us an amount of interest of $38.40. So that's our final answer. Our interest is $38.40 on that particular loan for that amount of time. So I want you to pause this video and go ahead and give number 2 a try, and then I'll show you how to do it. All right, let's see how you did. Interest is PRT, so that's the work I want to see. I want to see this written out. Interest equals $1,500. That's our principal. Our rate is 4.25%. So if we move that decimal over twice or divide by 100, we are going to get 0.0425. So make sure that you have enough leading zeros there. And then we're going to multiply it times 4 years. That's our time. And if you put that into your calculator, you should have $255 for interest. Awesome. Now this next one I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to let you try number 4. The difference between this problem and this one is our time is going to be in months. So we need to write that in years. Well, how many months are there in 1 year? 12. So we have 6 out of 12 months. So I'm going to write that as a decimal. And you can go ahead and divide that on your calculator to get a decimal, but why? You can just put it in as a fraction. And sometimes we get a repeating decimal, and just putting it in as a fraction is going to give you a more specific answer. So let's do interest equals PRT. Interest equals principal times percent. Don't forget to move that decimal over or write it as a fraction over 100 times 6/12. When you put that into, or 1/2 of a year really, when you put that into your calculator, interest is going to be $5.80. Why is it so small? Well, your loan was pretty small, your percentage rate was small, and you only took out that loan for half a year. I want you to go ahead and give this a try. And remember, this is months, so make sure that you rewrite it in years. All right, so let's take a peek. Interest equals PRT. Interest equals principal, $1,200, times rate, 0.039, times time. Let's write that as 8/12. Now, 8/12 is going to give you a decimal of 6 tenths repeating. If you put a bunch of 6s into your calculator to do this multiplication, you're not going to quite get it to the actual interest, but if you put in that fraction, you will get $31.20. If you put in that repeating 6, you probably got 31.19 something. So that's going to give it to you as specifically as you can. So go ahead and turn on to the back. We're going to talk about some word problems with these, all right? So I'm going to use these highlighters to highlight the different parts of our equation. Jenny puts $1,560 into a savings account. So not only do you pay money on loans, but if you put money into a bank account, a savings account, you are giving banks permission to borrow that money and lend it to other people, and they're charging other people to borrow your money. Now, it's all done digitally. It's not like they're going to take it from your actual account and then put it back when you need it, but essentially that's what's going on because money is represented there. You're handing them the money, and they're saying you have this much in your savings account. They will pay you simple interest to borrow your money. So if you have a savings account, make sure you take a look at the statement, and every month they will pay you 2.5%, 2%, 1%, 1.5%, something in there based on the kind of savings account that you have. So this is our simple interest rate, and this is our amount of time. So if we take I equals PRT, this is what I need to see for your work. Interest equals $1,560 times 0.025, or 2.5 hundredths, times 3 years. Put that into your calculator, and you're going to get that the interest is $117. All right, I want you to try the next few problems. See if you can't do this one and this one on your own. Pause. All right, let's see how you did. So we have Rondell's parents borrow $6,300 from the bank for a new car. Their rate is 6% per year, and they are going to take 2 years to repay that loan. They're going to have the loan for 2 full years. So we have I equals principal times rate times time. I equals PRT. Principal is $6,300 times the rate, which is 0.06. That's how I write 6%. And then times 2 for 2 years. Pretty easy. Didn't have to change those years into anything. They were already years for me. So that's going to be a charge, an interest of $756 that Rondell's parents are going to pay to have that loan. How about Derek? Derek's dad bought new tires. Ooh, it's my least favorite thing to spend money on. But he used a credit card to pay for these tires. Remember how I said those credit card percentages are much higher? 19%. Ooh, okay. And then it says, if he does no other charges on this card and he does not make a payment, how much money will he owe after 1 month? That is our time. Unfortunately, it's not in years, so we're going to have to change that into years. So 1 month is 1 out of 12. So when we're doing interest equals principal times rate times time, interest equals $900 for the tires times a whopping 19%, which is 0.19, times 1/12. When we put that into our calculator, you might get something like 14 1/4. And so you need to change that from a fraction to a decimal, or think about what is 1/4 of a dollar. Well, $14 and 1/4, 25 cents. So this is your interest on that particular loan. Just for 1 month, you're paying almost $15 to get those tires. So imagine paying off those tires and over the course of a year. Yeesh. All right, let's take a look at this last one. This one's a little bit special because instead of finding the interest, let's read. Lewis is taking a car loan out for $5,000. He plans on paying the car loan in 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, he will have paid $300 in interest. What is the rate on that loan? This time we're solving for rate. No problem, because you guys are algebra masters. I equals PRT, same exact formula. Interest, we actually know what the interest is. It's $300 equals P, principal, we know that, $5,000, times rate, oh, that's what we do not know. Make that X times T, which is 2 years. Now we've got something that's kind of a little ugly because these are all being multiplied together, but you know the commutative property of multiplication. We can change that around in any order we want. So we're going to have 300 equals, let's do 5,000 times 2, which is 10,000, X. To solve for X, we simply divide by 10,000 on each side. Boom, boom, boom. And we get X equals, and if you put this into your calculator, you're going to get a decimal that looks like this, which is great, but we're looking for a rate, so we have to change it back into a percentage. So move that decimal to the right, kind of the opposite of what you normally would, and you will find that this is going to be a loan with a rate of 3%. Okay, now that you have finished that and you've taken great notes, keep your notes out. I want you to go up to the front of the room and grab your worksheet. So I have this in a basket at the front of the room. Go get it right now, and you can go ahead and start on this worksheet. I have an IXL practice for you to do that I want you to get 70% on before you get started on this one. But you can go ahead and grab it so that you are ready to go.